Hey everyone, today I'm going to be talking about faces. I'm going to give you a quick overview on faces. When you deal with faces, you're dealing with time. When you deal with time, you go a little bit insane, so be patient. I'm going to show you how to create faces. We're going to talk about face filters and face graphic overrides and how those two work together so that you get the display that you want for your drawings. This is going to be part one of a series of videos. Here I'm trying to address the basics, architecture. Then later on we'll dig into MEP facing. So, buckle up. See you in Revit. Hi everyone, this is Alex with BIMitUp, where we help you with professional training and coaching in mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection systems, and Autodesk platforms like Revit and AutoCAD MEP. Let's get started.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start a new project. So new project. So under templates, I'm going to go US Imperial, and let's open up, for example, this commercial default. Okay. Now if you go to Manage and Faces, then you'll see you have existing, new construction, and project completion. It's not always like this, right? If I want to create a new project and instead of that one and select construction default, and I click OK, you see that this one has a bunch more faces, right? So it's a little bit more complex. And going in the other direction, if you want to go simpler, and I use the default. In this project, if I go to Manage and Faces, I'll see only existing and new construction. So by default, at least you'll have two faces typically. So you have existing and new construction. So let's start with this. So let's start with something very simple, right? So I'm going to do some exterior walls here. Let's say 40 feet by 20 feet, right? Something like that. So let's say these exterior walls are existing, right? And then I have some existing, a couple of existing 6-inch walls right here. And let's say I have a couple of doors, one here and one here. And all this is existing, right? So some people will tell you that you can manage faces with just existing and new construction. And then under new construction, you can have your new elements and your demolition elements. I don't think that's the correct approach. I like to keep things organized. So I'd rather have an existing phase, then add another phase here. That would be the demo phase. And then the new construction phase. And if you think about it, Revit's giving you a hint here. It's telling you that past is all the way here at the top and that future is all the way at the bottom. So this is the chronological order going down, right? So first we have an existing situation, then you have some elements that you may or may not demolish, and then you have some new construction. So let's click OK, and now let's create those views so you see how nice it is if you work organized. So I'm going to rename this one, and I'm going to call it level 1 new. Okay. Now I don't want to rename any levels. I want to make a couple of copies of that, right? So I'm going to duplicate this one, and this one I'm going to call it existing, right? And then I'm going to make another copy of it, and I'm going to call it demo. So now I have my existing, my demo, and my new. So just for the sake of this explanation, I'm just going to have them organized in chronological order. This is obviously not required. I just want to be as consistent as possible for this example. So we have an existing phase, right? We have a demo phase, and then we have a new phase right here. And yes, it is true that the phase is a property of the element. I can come here and I can see phase created and phase demolished, but I want to see the benefits of working in an organized way. So in this existing phase, remember, if I have nothing selected, then these are the properties of the view, the level 1 existing view, right? So if I come down here, I see that the face for this view is new construction. So let's change that to existing because we're calling this existing, right? So this will be existing, and then in existing, I see nothing. And why do I see nothing here? We'll see that in a little bit. If I open now the demo phase and I change this to demo phase, I see nothing. And now if I open new and I keep this as new construction, I see everything as new. That kind of makes sense. I'm going to keep this also organized, right? So I have first existing, then I have demo, and then I have new. If all these walls are existing to remain, I could select all of them. And then you see here, phase created. This was created in the existing phase, right? And if they're existing to remain, they're not going to be demolished. So phase demolished, none. Okay, let's see how this behaves. Notice that now, since this is new construction, it seems half-tone, right? If you go to existing, the walls appear full bright, just like the doors, right? Now, if I go to demo, in my demo phase, this appears as half-tone as well. So what controls this? What controls this are my phase filters. So if I go back here to phases, so understanding the phase filters can be a little tricky at the beginning, but let's try to be as clear as possible. You'll have some graphic overrides, and those graphic overrides will be applied to each element depending on a certain parameter, on a certain property, on a certain status. So let's say a wall. A wall can either be existing, demolished, new, or temporary, right? And these are your graphic overrides. So in your phase filters, you see that same property here. See new, existing, demolished, and temporary. So the tricky part to understand is that, you know, new is anything that's created in the current phase. So be careful with that, because if you are, these are project phases, right? So if you're in existing and then you're creating something in that phase for the existing view, that wall is new because it's being created at the current phase. If you're new construction, you create a new wall, that's a new wall under new construction. And if you create something in the existing phase, that's new in the existing phase. And I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, but again, we'll see it with an example. And the key thing to understand is that this phase status is a property of the element. So a wall can be existing, or it can be demolished, or it can be new, or it can be temporary. And then you have your phases. So new is anything that's created in the current phase, in the phase that you're standing as current, okay? In the phase that you have active at the time you're designing. And then existing is anything that was created prior to that current phase. In this case, I'm talking current, like if it was new, but if you were in the existing phase and then you create a wall in the existing phase, that's new to the existing phase. We'll see that with an example in a little bit. Demolished is anything that's being removed in that current phase, and then temporary are things that are, elements that are being added and removed in the same phase. So it's like real quick. You add them and then you remove them in the same phase. Let's go one by one so we fully understand what's going on. Let's say from this walls, I'm demolishing both of those interior walls. So I'm going to select this wall. So now this element, I'm going to say that it was created in the existing phase, but now it's going to be demolished. When is it going to be demolished? It's going to be demolished in the demo phase. So I'm going to say demo here. And now we don't see any difference here in the existing phase, but now if I go to the demo phase, in a similar way, if I click on this wall now and I keep it as created in the existing phase, but now it's being demolished in the demo phase, when I go to the demo phase, I see it shown as demolished, right? And now if I go to new, I only see the exterior walls. Why? Because this came after the demolition phase and those two walls have already been demolished, okay? So how is this controlled? Let's study, for example, one of those walls. Let's say this wall right here. So you can see that this wall was created in the existing phase and it was demolished in the demo phase. If I click escape and I go to the properties of my view, this view is set up as a phase existing. We want to keep it like that. And we're showing a phase filter that is called show all. I could select, for example, um, show previous phase. What happens now? Well, what's the previous phase to existing? If I go to my phases, before existing, I have nothing. So that's why it's showing you nothing, right? If I show previous and new, it's showing me the existing. So don't get confused by the wording. It's just previous and new based on this phase. So if you have show previous and new, what it means is that you're showing the previous phase to existing, which doesn't exist, and the new that was modeled under the existing phase. So in Revit size, all these elements are new on the existing phase. It's a little bit tricky to get used to the wording, but the important thing is that you have a phase, and then based on that phase, you're showing previous phase and that phase. That's basically what it means. So now let's go to demo, right? In my demo view, I have my face set up as demo. That's correct. And now my face filter, I have it as show all, right? I could show, for example, previous and demo only, right? And here I don't see any difference. We'll see the difference a little bit later, but let's just stay consistent. Right here, I'm showing the previous phase and any demolition. So if I go to my faces, since my face is set up as demo, right? This is where I am. This is where I'm standing in time. I'm showing previous and demolition. So the previous to demo is existing. And the demolition is these two walls and the doors because the doors are being hosted by the walls, right? And now if I go to new, this one is saying show all. I could change this to show previous and new and it wouldn't change, right? Why? Because we're standing in time under new construction and I'm asking to show previous and new elements. So if I go to faces, I'm standing right here. I'm showing previous. What's previous? The previous is whatever was in the demo phase, right? And any new construction. So this seems to be working okay. Now let's add a couple of walls and let's play a little bit with that to understand this even better. So we go to architecture. Let's just do another wall right here, right? And let's create similar. I'm going to create a door. And then I'm going to have this wall to be created in the existing phase, but not to be demolished, right? So what are we expecting in the demo phase? Well, in the demo phase, we're expecting to see these two walls, the previous walls, to be demolished, and this one is just half-toned as existing to remain. And it shows half-tone because it was created in the existing phase, and we're in the demo view. And then if you go to the new view, you see this demolished because it was already demolished. And you see this wall here because it was created in the existing phase and it was never demolished. I could change it from this view because this is just a property of the element. The wall itself has nothing to do with which view I'm on. So I could change this to be demolished under the demo phase. But you know, it's a lot cleaner and nicer if I go to my demo view. And then since my demo view has a phase that is set up to demolition, then I can demolish from here and I can see exactly what's going on, right? I hit demo and then I see this turning into demolition. So I think that's a lot nicer than just doing new and demolition in the same view. It can get a little messy, especially for MEP, because MEP demolition is a lot more complex than just architectural demolition, which is, walls and windows and doors and little things like that. So let's go back to the new phase and let's create here a couple of walls that are brand new, right? Let's say we want a little office here for the manager or whatever. And I'm going to create a little door here. And let's say it opens to the outside, whatever. You can see now that This, since by default it was created under new construction and it was never demolished, I see it as full tone here, whereas the existing is half tone. So let's go back now to our face filters and understand what's going on. So we go back to Manage, Faces, Face Filters, and then this filter name is the one that I'm going to select here, right? So if I come down here to this view, let's start with existing, right? So my face filters show previous and new. That's the one I set up. I can select it from here. So what does show previous and new call for? Well, let's see. Let's go to faces and then face filters. And here's show previous and new. So any new walls, I want them to be displayed by the category. So this is however you have the category, the walls category set up. That's how it will display in that view. Existing walls, I want them overwritten. And what's the override? Well, you would go here to graphic override. If I go to existing and I go to lines, I see that they're overwritten to show in gray. So that's why. So that's the override for the existing elements when I'm in the show previous and new face filter. And then for the demolished, I want them not to be displayed. Okay, and we're not going to worry about temporary right now. But for now, what I want you to see is that I want the new element by category, the existing, overwritten, and the demolished not displayed. Now you need to be careful not to be confused because you would say, well, but if I have demolished to not displayed, I'm using the show previous and new filter. That's what I have set up here. Why are the demolished elements showing, right? Because this walls are to be demolished. Yeah, but they're set to be demolished when? They're set to be demolished in the demo phase. And this view is showing existing phase. So these walls haven't been demolished yet. Now, if I were to, let's say I want to demolish those in the existing phase, I could do that and set this to be demolished. But then since we have the phase filter set up as to not to show the demolished element, then it won't show. So I'm just going to hit undo. So that doesn't make too much sense. But now what I want you to see is that if I go now to show previous and demo, and then we go to faces, which face filter am I using for this view? I'm using show previous and demo. So in show previous and demo, I have my new elements. I don't want them to be displayed because that's going to be done in the new phase, right? Existing elements? What do I want for my existing elements? Well, I want them overwritten. How do I want them overwritten? You have to go here to graphic overrides and remember the existing elements. We decided that it was going to be shown on gray, and that's what it's doing. See, existing elements on gray. And then what's the override for the demolished elements? Well, let's go to faces again. Our face filter, remember, is show previous and demo, right? It's this one here. So what do I want for demolished? I want them to be overwritten. How? I want them to have a line pattern that is dashed. You see it here? Well, it's hard to see, but it's dashed. So that's what's controlling that. And then if we go finally to new, you'll see that my face filter is set up now to show previous and new. And if we go to our face filters, show previous and new has the new elements by category. That's why my new walls are shown by category, which is solid white. I have the existing as overwritten. What was my override? Remember, we said it was going to be for existing elements, it was going to be gray. So that's why it's showing gray. And then my demolished elements, I want them not displayed. And that's exactly what's happening because we had those two walls right here that were demolished in the demo phase. And then on the new phase, I don't see them. So that's essentially how that works for architecture. And you can play a little bit with these face filters and experiment. I encourage you to experiment a lot with this so you understand exactly what's happening. But I think the cleanest way to think about this is you have a certain view. That view has a face associated to it. And then you're setting a face filter from this list right here to control how your existing demo and new elements show.
And if you're serious about your professional training, go ahead and visit us at BIMitUp.com. At BIMitUp.com, we offer professional training and coaching in mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection systems. We can also train you in Autodesk platforms like Revit or AutoCAD MEP. So go ahead and visit us at BIMitUp.com or send me an email directly to the email you see on screen and let us know how we can help you achieve your professional goals.